3DF Memphis. It's time for Hello, friends on Sports 56. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshyn. Look up on the wall.
Welcome in on this gorgeous Monday morning. Nice to have you aboard. I want to start just by thanking the folks from the Italian Fest. Last couple of years I've had the honor, and it is, to be a judge in their the category that could be anything. We had a dessert. We had a lamb dish. Oh, my gosh. The lamb dish was unbelievable. I know Greg and Eli were there for the gravy, which I think is the most prestigious thing. That was on Saturday. But walking around Friday night, seeing a lot of people I knew and watching everybody go into different tents and eating in the jovial atmosphere, it reminded me that the Italian Fest now is like the barbecue contest when it first started 30-something, whatever it is, years ago, where everybody knew everybody and everybody went into the tents to eat, and there wasn't necessarily a public thing where you could buy, and it was just a bunch of folks getting together that knew everybody. It was really nice, and I hope that the Italian Fest can keep that sense, that feel, because it is so darn special. We've got medals, as we always do today, and I've got a whole bunch of those. TJ Reeves will join us near the bottom of the hour, somewhere around 10:25 or so, and then we end our Mondays, as always, with Ted Butler. Of course, Scotty Scheffler is the big story in golf. The College World Series is big. There's big games today with the Rebels in Ole Miss, the Volunteers in Knoxville. Of the three major schools here, well, there's four. I'm going to put Mississippi State. They're out, but Arkansas is in. Texas and Vandy losing, those were shocking, and that will be in part of my medals because the region that was hosted in Austin by the Longhorns, beaten by an American Athletic Conference team. So I'm looking forward to all of these medals. Interesting discussion earlier with Greg and Eli about the showboats. I'm going to get to that in my rust. I do believe if they were here on a regular basis that it would help in terms of their attendance. I feel so bad for Steve Macy, and I kid him that I think he's got the hardest job in Memphis sports, and I truly believe that. Although their goal is really only about 8,000 fans a game, you know, the showboats in their original entity, they were drawn 40 to 50,000 per game. But that was an attempt of trying to bully your way into the NFL. There was NFL players on those rosters. This is clearly not that kind of league. Certainly 8 to 10,000, it would seem to me, would be an attainable thing if two other things besides having your players in town. One would be a schedule that was giving the team a chance. 11 o'clock Sunday mornings when everybody's in church in this town, that's not going to make it. They didn't get any Friday night games. That would go a long way. Saturday night game, that would go a long way. They would get their 8,000 if they were to do that, especially with the pricing that they have with the $2 beers and the hot dogs and everything else that's so cheap. And then the other is to win. I mean, this team has won 4 games in 2 years at home. 4 games, 1 at home in 2 years. If you go back to their original USFL group, they won 5 games that year. Still didn't make the playoffs. Teams never made the playoffs. They won 5 games that year. So they are 9-21 over the last 3 years. Folks, that's not going to cut it. Never makes the playoffs. Nobody that you can really latch onto. I'd heard the regional thing, but we forget the USFL team here, which probably drew better than the 2 years with the UFL, had Brady White as their starting quarterback in the very first game. Now, it didn't last very long, and Brady wasn't good enough to make that team, even though he had set the record at that point. Because I mentioned Greg bringing up Seth Hennigan, but Brady White had the records before Hennigan broke it, and Brady White did not bring extra people to the games. I do think that there would be some benefit if you had 2 or 3 Memphis stars or 2 or 3 Ole Miss stars or 2 or 3 Tennessee or Arkansas stars. That would be good. It would bring some of those people to the plate, but I don't think it's the total answer. There's so many different reasons that this has just not made it. But I do hope they're back. And I will say this, watching every sports reporter on television last night, you would think this team is gone. But listening to Steve Macy with Greg and Eli on Friday, looking at the report that the Daily Memphian had that the city and the UFL already have begun negotiations on a new lease because the last lease ended with this last game. I do think there is intent for this team to come back. I hope so. I even though I have not gone to many games, honestly, that is just circumstance. But I think it's a great amenity to have a spring football team. It's another option for entertainment and for athletic competition on your turf. That's great. I do think you would feel like it's more your team if they were housed here, if they were living here for part of the year. They don't do that at all. They live in Arlington. They come 5 times a year. It's hard to get your arms wrapped around that. I don't see that changing, though, because I think this league is strictly a television/gambling league. People forget there is, at least on one of the networks, I don't know if it's on all of them, I think it is, though, there is an entity or a part of it that involves gambling, where they bring this very good-looking young lady on who talks about, now here's the play to make right now. And the app is owned by the networks or by the UFL. So there's a revenue stream coming from that, plus the revenue stream from being on either ESPN or Fox. And I don't know if that's a buy that they've made with those networks and they're getting the advertising. However it works, there's money that's being made there. That's what is the lifeblood of the league. But there's also the gambling entity, and the costs are way down because you're talking about only 5 trips each time. Well, there's 1 trip each time for a week for a team, but they're all going to the same place in the same airplane. The costs are way down, and the housing is all done in the same place. So I don't see that changing because I think this league is slightly making it based on the kind of format that is set up right now. I'm sitting in the Family Leisure studio. I don't know how much longer I'm going to say. It's pool time because we got a new month. Will, Lindsay, and Billy and all those folks changed the sale. Most likely that's coming, but if you tell them I sent you today, you could still get the 24-foot pools for under $2,000. The liners at under $300. The accessories are still 20% off. The 5 to 6 person hot tub starts at under $7,000. Get it while you can. It's still pool time at Family Leisure. On Mondays, we do a little thing we like to call precious metals. Man, I got a bunch, Elijah Seegers, I got to tell you. I'm going to start with the Indiana Pacers. They dominated in a must-win 6th game. I do not believe they could have gone back to New York City had they lost that game at Cambridge. I don't think they would have been able to go back to the Garden because the Knicks would have won 2 in a row and stolen all momentum and had home court advantage, and they're so good in New York City. But they won in a dominating way, so now they play OKC in the finals. Here's the way Indiana wins. 7 players in double figures. Their star, Tyrese Halliburton, you know how many assists he had in that series compared to turnovers? This is impressive. 60 assists in the series, only 10 turnovers. For a guy who handles the ball as much as he did, that is pretty darn good. So Halliburton and the Indiana Pacers will get my first bronze medal. My second bronze goes to the United States representatives at the French Open, Roland Garros, Paris, France. At the French Open. Do you realize that for the first time in 40 years, 8 players made it to the round of 16? And I got to give real good shots to Coco Gauff and to Francis Tiafoe. And Tiafoe does not have to play Alcaraz until later. So they have chances to keep going. Last guy, I think, to win a French Open was Agassi, Andre Agassi. So when would that have been, in the 90s? It's been a long time.
That.
Yeah. Is that before that?
I think so.
Oh, yeah, a long time ago. So to the Americans in France at the French Open, I give them a bronze. I got to give a silver medal to both the Chicago Cubs and the New York Yankees. And I give it to them because their offenses are just so darn good. The Yankees' run differential, best in the major leagues, by what over the Cubs? 98, plus 98. They scored more runs than they've given up. Cubs, best in the National League, and only one behind the Yankees. 97. Plus 97, ladies and gentlemen. My gosh, those Northsiders are good. They lead the Central Division by 4. Yankees have a big lead in the American League East, but the best record by just one game, really a half a game. The Detroit Tigers, who are 18 games over 500. Cubs are 17 games over 500. Yankees 16 games over 500. We are just starting to warm up as we turn to June in baseball. Speaking of baseball, I give a silver medal to UTSA, the University of Texas at San Antonio, which I've looked at their facilities. They're not the greatest. But here's a Roadrunner team that went into Austin. Texas Longhorns. SEC had some tough news this week. They didn't dominate like everybody thought they would, getting eight of the 16 regional hosts. Vandy's out. Texas is now out because of UTSA. They advanced to the Super Regional. Now, Arkansas and Tennessee. Arkansas's in, excuse me. Hogs did it. They won their own regional in Fayetteville. Ole Miss plays today. Tennessee plays today. The two SEC teams we know are out are Vandy and Texas, and they were amongst the higher-rated teams all told. Southern Miss has a chance at home. If they can beat Miami, they will advance, and they were down playing in Hattiesburg. They were a home team. The College World Series, I wonder what the ratings will be. By the way, our friend Joe Denk is off this week, so we'll have to wait a little bit before we get the word from him. But I think the College World Series had a lot of interest this week. I think a whole bunch of people watched. So those are my 2 silver. My 2 gold, one goes to Meja Stark. She's the Swede who won the U.S. Women's Open in golf. It is her second LPGA win. She becomes the first Swede to win a U.S. Open since Annika Sorenstam. So congratulations to her winning at Erin Hills. She was 7 under, which is a great score. I think she was even par yesterday, but they make it tough that last day at the U.S. Open. And then Scottie Scheffler, who wins again, pretty good margin, 4 strokes over Ben Griffin, who's about as hot as anybody else on the planet. But he repeated at Memorial. There's only 2 guys that have ever done that, him and Tiger Woods.
It's good company right there.
You realize that Scottie's got 16 wins in the last 4 years, which is tied for, and he's still working on it, right? Tied for 10th all time in a 4-year period. Tiger, by the way, owns the record at 25 wins in a 4-year period, and he did it twice. He did it twice. It's unbelievable. But that's pretty amazing. Scheffler looks like he is the next Tiger. You know, he's got 2 majors and 16 wins now, all under the age, I think it's of 29, something like that. And only Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus have done those kinds of feats. And what Scottie's actually got 3 now because he won the PGA and 2 Masters. So he's starting to look. Now look, I'm not saying he's Tiger. I'm not saying he's Jack. But he's got that look. He's got this beginning of a guy that could be uttered in that category. We'll talk to Ted Butler and to TJ Reeves about that coming up because they are next on the show. But what Scotty Scheffler is doing is domination. And the last guy to do that we thought would be Rory. We thought it might be this year. It's not Rory. It's Scotty.
Yeah, Scotty Scheffler well on his way to contending with the greats of the game. I got to give my bronze medal this week to Cal Raleigh. He's the catcher for the Seattle Mariners. And if you didn't know, Aaron Judge is no longer the home run leader in MLB. Shohei Ohtani is no longer the home run leader in MLB. It is Cal Raleigh who leads the MLB with 23 home runs.
Wow. That's
he,
great.
Has hit 6 just in the past week, 6 home runs, 10 RBIs in the past week for the AL West leading Seattle Mariners, who have kind of flown under the radar up until this point of the season.
Yeah, that is a great medal. Honestly, I did not realize he had snuck past the two bigger names, and Ohtani and Judge. And Judge was off to that unbelievable April and May.
Yeah, he's currently second in AL MVP voting, only behind Aaron Judge, the predictions at least. My silver, I gave it to the Indiana Pacers. They beat the Knicks in 6 games, advanced to the NBA Finals, first Finals for them since 2000. And an interesting stat, in games in this playoffs where they have scored over 110 points, they are 12-0. In games where they have scored under 110 points, they are 0-4.
Wow.
110 points is the benchmark, it seems.
OKC is clearly the favorite. I don't know how clearly it should be. I think this is going to be a heck of a series.
Yeah, I think Indiana matches up better than some people might predict they will. I think that they have the ability to match OKC pace-wise. It's just going to come down to limiting turnovers,
Well,
really.
and you do have to look at what happened in the regular season, and that was 2-0 for OKC. OKC, I believe, was 13-1, something like that, against the East this year.
They were 29-1.
29-1. You're right. 29-1. The only loss was to Cleveland, right? So that's that record in itself is unreal.
Yes, it is. My gold medal this week, Dave, I don't know if you know this story or not about the LSU Shreveport men's baseball team. Do you know this story?
No, I don't. So enlighten me.
So this baseball team, LSU Shreveport, is the first team in any college division ever to go undefeated for a baseball season. They went 59-0.
What? What conference are they in?
They're NAIA.
Yeah, okay.
So they played against some of the local teams here throughout the season, talking about like Union and Harding and teams like that.
Yeah.
But they went 59-0 en route to winning the NAIA World Series in Idaho last week. They had 27 wins where they won by double digits.
So that is their ending record, 59-0.
59-0,
Wow.
first ever undefeated college baseball team.
My prediction is, in my lifetime, which I hope is at least another 20, that'll never happen again.
Wouldn't think
That
so.
may never happen in your lifetime, and you're a young guy.
Would not think so at all.
Good, I love that. 59-0. And at that level, that's, they're all competitive. They all have the same amount of whatever financial aid they get for it. That's incredible. All right. I've got 3 rusts. The Showboats get my first. They really should be to the UFL. They got no breaks. They got a terrible schedule to begin with. They had the unfortunate bad luck with the coaches and illnesses, and they never had stability there. 2-8 finish. They lost to the team they beat this year earlier on the road in Birmingham, 46-9. 2 pick sixes in the game. It was ugly. So they finished 2-8. They're 9-21 over 3 years. I do hope that there is a 4th year. I think there will be a 4th year. I hope that there will be, as I said earlier. I give a rust to the Colorado Rockies. Remember how bad the White Sox were last year? We kept comparing them to the teams of the 50s that had a worse start. Now we can do that with Colorado. 9-50 is the worst 59-game start in the history of baseball since 50. 1950, 75 years ago. Crazy.
Record shattering in the bad way.
It's so weird that we've had 2 years in a row, one in the American League, the White Sox last year, this year the Colorado Rockies, that are so bad. It's just amazing to me that you could be that bad, but they are. And then my final rush goes to Shaq and to Kenny Smith. I stayed up late. I couldn't wait to hear, in particular, Barkley and Ernie Johnson, who were classy in their closing remarks. But the last game with the Knicks and the Pacers was the last game that TNT was the rights holders and telecast the game. So this was going to be the last time you would see Inside the NBA on TNT. And to end, Shaq first said, I'm going to say the F. No, it's my last time on TNT. And swore he used the F word in its entirety 2 or 3 times. Kenny Smith, who I think is a classy guy, really shocked me because he used the word. Thank goodness Ernie Johnson never did, neither did Charles Barkley. They were much more classy. But I give a rust. I don't think it's appropriate. Maybe I'm just an old man. And I understand you use the word hell and ass and damn now. That's legal, thanks to Howard Stern, I guess. But to use the F word in its entirety on national TV, that to me is disgraceful. And so I got to give a rust to Shaq and Kenny Smith. I'm very disappointed that they did that. I think it was classless.
Yeah, I didn't even know that happened. That's very surprising to me,
Yeah.
especially coming from Kenny Smith.
I know. Well, he just followed Shaq. I don't think he would have done that if Shaq hadn't done it first.
Yeah, I have 2 rusts. I give my first rust to, I guess I could give it to both Vanderbilt and Texas, but
Yeah.
I just gave it to Vanderbilt. Losing their own regional, losing the elimination game yesterday to Wright State, which, if you're going by seeding, would have been the last seeded team in the field out of all 64 teams. Just bad stuff from the Vanderbilt baseball team. The number 1 seed curse continues. The only team that's ever been able to break it has been Tennessee. But to lose in your own regional as the number 1 overall seed, that's pretty brutal.
Well, Texas lost in their own regional, wasn't it?
Yes, they did. They were number 2 seed.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
That was one of mine, and the other one is the Connecticut Sun. They lost 100-52 yesterday against the New York Liberty, the second biggest loss in WNBA history. Gave up the most 3-pointers in a game to the Liberty in NBA history. That might have flown under the radar with everything else going on yesterday.
How many threes did they give up?
Record-shattering stuff in a bad way once again.
I know. How many threes was that?
I think they made 21 threes.
21 threes. Wow. 150. I saw that, and it was like the Commissioner's Cup.
That's right.
Crazy. It was. And Liberty are really that's the defending champions, right? Breanna Stewart and all those guys. They're really a good team. And those are all of our medals. They're brought to you by Miramichi. Played yesterday at Miramichi. Oh, is it beautiful? I mean, they have now started to see the grass grow in. Fairways are no longer compacted. You got to hit good shots. The greens are faster than they used to be. They're just all, and it's only going to get better as the warmer weather comes in. You know, for Bermuda to really grow, you got to have 70-degree nights. We haven't quite gotten all that way yet, so it's going to really take off here in the next few weeks. But it's green out there. It's beautiful, and there's nothing more gorgeous than the back 9 at Miramichi. You're walking through hills. There's a stream that's running. There's a waterfall. It is beautiful. It's competitive. You can play back 7,000 yards like they do for collegiate competitions or the Bubba that'll be there later this year, or you can play up like I did yesterday, right around 6,000 yards. So much fun. It's the complete golf experience. Monday, today, it's open. Thursday's the cheapest day to go. Go tell them we sent you. You will really enjoy the golf at Miramichi. We take a break. When we come back, we head to Tampa. TJ Reeves is standing by. He's next on Wallow and Friends.
Add a little fun to your lunch break. Join Johnny Radio for Sports 56 Happy Hour from 11 to 1 every weekday on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Guns, guns, and more guns. Over 700 firearms in stock. Old fence guns, home guns, new guns, loose guns, big guns, little guns. Every gun you can think of, classic arms has them. All brands like Black, Sig, at 1740 Barbecue in Cordova.
Here she comes. Surprise! Your accountant just emailed to say your quarterly taxes are way higher than you were expecting.
Small business owners don't usually like surprises because they cost you money. But a good surprise that could save you money? Getting discounts with a commercial auto quote from Progressive.
Also, your favorite employee is leaving. They're going to pursue their dream of being a veterinarian.
Surprise yourself. See if you can save in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
I don't think I'm a bad golfer. I know I'm a bad golfer. This is Sheldon Rosengarten with Mark's Penn-Store Realtors. And sometimes bad is not quite the right word. Awful, that's more like it. And when it comes to selling houses, that's a whole different story. Over the many years that I've been in the real estate business, I have refined and perfected my highly successful strategic marketing program. In golf, forget about my normal 5 strokes on a par 3. But remember the home I just closed in November with 2 offers at full list price. Okay, let's review. If you're thinking of selling, wouldn't you want an experienced player on your team to lead you to the closing table? Someone whose background is marketing and not merely putting a sign in the yard. And remember what people often say, that when you want the job done, call who? Sheldon. You can reach me, Sheldon Rosengarten, at MemphisRelocate.com or 483-0546. That's 483-0546 or MemphisRelocate.com. And go Tigers.
Visit Frontier Western Store today for new shirts and boots. Frontier is your top Carhartt store in the Mid-South. There's thousands of in-stock shirts and jeans. They have the classic K87 pocket tee in every color they make, including new ones just released. Available small to 4X. Want new jeans? Frontier has you covered with super tough work in them by Carhartt. And you've got to check out their selection of Ariat jeans for men, women, and children. You'll love how easy it is to find the size and style you need. Have you seen Frontier's remodeled world-famous boot showroom? It continues to expand. New styles by Ariat just arrived, plus plenty of in-stock proven classics too. Whether you need work or dress boots, trust that Frontier is the place to come. See thousands of pairs of Ariat boots and thousands more by Dan Post, Corral, Durango, Rocky, Twisted X, and others. And Frontier's pricing is lower than online and chain stores, so you know just the local shop to visit. Frontier Western Store, 5880 Goodman Road in Olive Branch, and on the web at frontierwesternstore.com. Locally owned and operated since 1967.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Once again, is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshik.
Welcome back in. I gotta thank Brian Dacus. Remember how I ripped him on his golf picks last week, Elijah? Tom Kim gave him a lot of grief. He picked me Scotty Scheffler this week, right? So
He's looking up for you.
I won. So what signature events? You win over 3, don't you? 3 million, 3.2 million, something like that.
That's right.
Can't wait till Wednesday because then we'll figure out the tally, and I don't think I'll be picking first anymore. But I'm very excited. I got to thank Brian Dacus for all of that. Let's head to Tampa. Our good friend T.J. Reeves is standing by. We got lots to talk about with TJ today.
Yes.
Scotty Scheffler in particular.
Yep. The big thing, though, first of all, is proof of life on you, especially when you travel to Central America.
Yeah.
And am I to understand, I believe there is photographic evidence that you've sent me. That is you.
Yes.
Have you discussed this already on the show? You rappelling off of a waterfall?
170 feet straight down.
What would possess you, with the exception of being chased by the local authorities, et cetera, and having to do something like Harrison Ford out of The Fugitive? What would possess you to rappel off a waterfall by choice? I'm just going over that decision.
My wife, really. I mean, she booked this whole trip. We zip lined, we whitewater rafted, we did that rappelling, we did a lot of hikes, ocean kayaking, regular kayaking. It was a very adventurous, high adrenaline.
I love it.
Kind of a trip. Why she did this, I don't know. She and the travel agent did it. I went along for the ride, and I'll give you the story. We were literally doing the zip lining, and the zip lining to me is more scary even than the rappelling. So the zip
I
lining,
don't disagree. How fast was the zip line
very
going?
fast.
Because they can reach in excess of 50, 55 miles an hour with you hanging on going down the line.
I think the first one was like 43 or 44 miles an hour is what it was. So wait, let me tell you about this one, okay? So this one, there is a tractor that pulls a couple of wagons that are like attached to go up this really dirt road, up the mountain to get to your first platform. There's 7 platforms in this deal. So the first one you get to, and then when you get off of the wagon, you literally climb up this tower.
Like the platform, right. You got to go up to the platform.
And it's up at least 100 feet, okay? Where you get on this
So they're giving you plenty of time to contemplate your life and your priorities before you're about to begin.
Your heart is in your throat, man. I mean, if you've done it a few times, probably not. But when the only other time I did this was in Alaska 20 years ago. So we climb up there. My wife's in front of me. And there's 2 other people that are sort of in front of us. They're young guys. They're in their early 20s. One is going to be a pilot. He's in flight school. He goes right off. The next guy up is this 6'2" kid, strapping, athletic, and he looks at the guide and goes, "No bueno." And the guide looks back at him and goes, "Are you serious?" Now think about this. You have to climb up another step on the platform. You're already up 100 feet from anything. You're looking over. You can't see the next platform, which is over a half a mile away. And literally the drop is 500 feet. And they're attaching you to this little harness, right?
Right.
And you're
going down a ravine.
You're
going down a ravine to a 500-foot down other platform where they grab you, stop you.
No. Your drop from where your wire is to the ground is 500 feet. The platform that you're going to is downward a bit, but it's a half a mile away.
And so he refused? He chickened out? He climbed back down?
He goes, "No bueno." And so the guide looks at him and he goes, "Are you serious?" And he goes, "This is too much. No bueno." And he literally stepped to the side. My wife, in the meantime, got on the platform and went down. So as she is leaving, I look at that guy, and I know I'm next. And I just said to that poor guy, I'm kind of with you, but my wife just went. There's no way I can't go. And so I did it. And the first one you're really uncomfortable with and in this particular, it was misting out. You couldn't see the thing, and so you can't wait for it to end. But as you became more comfortable, by the 7th one, you're going, let's go, baby.
Talk about an adrenaline rush.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. Just nuts.
And you rappelled off a waterfall from how far up again one more time before we move on?
The first one is 100 that you saw that I have pictures of, 170 feet. So what you got to do there is you get to the edge, you kind of lean over, you feel your weight in the harness, and then you got to kind of kick off, and you got your right hand on the rope, your other hand's up on top, and you just sort of release yourself. Now, in full disclosure, there's a guide on top and there's a guide on the bottom. If you screw it up, they kind of have control of you and they can take over.
They can grab you, catch you. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I swear to you, some people think that's more of an adrenaline rush, the rappelling. Not to me. I
love it. And I have done the zip lining with my twins when my twins were younger, and they were, my twins still, but even when they were younger, it was worse. They would hang off of a burning skyscraper. They were that fearless.
Oh, man.
So I've done the zip lining where it will get up to 50, 55 miles an hour going down a half mile, like what you're saying.
Yeah.
So yes, I can totally appreciate that. All right. So I'm glad you survived all of that. And by the way, you were gone, and you've now come back, and Scotty Scheffler is still dominating everyone and everything on the PGA Tour. Nothing has changed.
What happened to Rory McIlroy? He was supposed to be the guy this year. He finally got the monkey off his back.
While you were gone, there's this controversy from the PGA Championship about them taking his driver and him being upset about it. And then there's obviously questions.
By the way, Scotty's was taken away too.
That's correct. There's questions and debate now about whether or not these guys were using a souped-up club to win previous tournaments. The difference is for Scheffler, he's now won the PGA and now won this event and actually finished right there at Colonial last week with presumably the new driver or the different driver. So, he's on an amazing run. When you're talking about the list, you know the list, right, of players under the age of 30 that now have, and in his case, 16 PGA Tour wins and 3 or more majors before the age of 30.
Yes.
The list would be Jack Nicklaus,
Tiger
Woods, Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah, I know.
That's quite a list.
You think
to be
that,
on.
you think his trajectory will continue in this kind of rarefied air?
That's the great question. And Jack yesterday it was kind of interesting in the post round stuff. He's sitting there with Scheffler and he's basically saying you're a great player, but the players around you didn't challenge you, and people were taking that kind of as a slight. But look, he's lining up every week. I went back and looked, and the guy is literally on a torrid pace of finishing in the top 10 or winning every event he enters. So he's on a roll. But the question is, does that roll continue in 2026, in 2028? Are we still talking about him dominating? I don't know that Tiger couldn't even dominate at that high of a level, 4 years in, 6 years in. That's the real debate, right?
Well, he's won 16 in 4 years, all right, and within 4 years. So he's still got time for this year. That's the 10th best ever. Tiger Woods had 2 times where he won 25 times in a 4-year period, twice.
25 times.
Yes.
25 wins, and he didn't even play as much as Scheffler's playing. He would pick and choose and play about 13, 15 events, something like that. It's amazing. Can he hold in? Will others be able to challenge him? All of that is up for debate, but this is amazing stuff that we're seeing at the biggest events here, where he, time in and time out. Again, if Tiger is the standard, he has untouchable things. What was it, like 250 weeks in a row or whatever that he was the number one player in the world?
Well, how many cuts made, too? I mean,
yeah, and you're talking, he made like 170 cuts in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, it's mind-boggling, the numbers that he put up. Including winning, like 70 golf tournaments before the age of 35 or whatever it was. Think about that now.
Right.
70 of them. I think that's what it was. So it's crazy. It's crazy the numbers he put up, but Scheffler definitely deserves to be in the conversation. What else? What else?
I think it's interesting you thought that Jack was slighting him, because now I didn't hear those comments in the post-match, but I did hear him talk prior to that, where he said, he was asked, who are these guys reminds you of you? And he said Scotty Scheffler, because of the way he thinks the game and approaches the game, and when he gets the lead, how smart he plays. So, because they were trying to get a comparison with him and Rory, and he was going, no, Scotty's more like I am. And so you say that tells you something, and that is after, and this kind of POs me about Rory, honestly. Remember, he calls up Jack Nicklaus and wants advice on how to finally win at Augusta, gets it, and then doesn't show up at his tournament and didn't even call him. Yeah.
And didn't even call him, right, which is not, for the golf gods, that's not a great way to treat one of the legends, one of the Mount Rushmores of the game, but hey, I mean, he's obviously mad about what went on at the PGA and may not be over it yet. And we got the U.S. Open looming, which, by the way, he gave away the U.S. Open, Rory, last year. So stay tuned for that subplot and all of those questions.
That was to DeChambeau.
So it will be interesting with the golf. What else? You want to talk anything else? NBA Finals, Stanley Cup?
NBA Finals and the TNT farewell. I just gave a roast to Shaq and to Kenny for using the F word several times on national TV. I don't understand why they did that. Your thoughts about how this is going away from TNT, which sort of developed its rep by doing these games.
I thought it was very well done, the send-off that the Inside the NBA crew had done, but Kevin Harlan sending it off as the final voice and saying goodbye after 35 years of Turner and TNT doing playoff games. He did a great job. And the bizarre thing is they're not going away as the Inside the NBA show. The real debate is, what are they going to be allowed to do, and how much is ESPN going to value their post-game stuff? Because they're going to do this on ESPN and ABC next basketball season. You're going to see Ernie Johnson, Kenny Smith, Barkley, and Shaq, and they're going to call it Inside the NBA. It's just on ESPN and ABC now.
Right.
So that's another bizarre footnote on all of this, but
they're going to use them a lot because they're paying them. They're basically taking over the contract they were all getting.
Somebody's pointing out, and they're right. All right, so let's say they're doing the huge game on ESPN. Typically right now, when the huge event on ESPN is over, they go right to Scott Van Pelt and his Sports Center, the SVP Sports Center, and he does it. So now are you going to let them go for 20 minutes, 30 minutes? I don't know what's in the contract. How long do they go? Do they move them to ESPN2 and say to all the NBA fans, hey, go over to ESPN2 and watch them while Van Pelt does Sports Center? That's a very interesting dynamic if it's going to be on ESPN. Now, my understanding was, I thought this was the case, that for most of the regular season, they're going to be on Sunday on ABC. So after the ABC game is over, again, how long are they going to go before ABC wants to go to the local news, the national news, and their primetime programming? I don't know. I don't know what that answer is. So I don't know that they're going to continue to have the same free reign of doing a half hour or 40 minutes of post-game analysis like they always did on Turner. As somebody joked and put it, you could always join the latest rerun of Bones or Big Bang Theory or pick up the movie A Few Good Men in Progress whenever they were done talking in the middle of the night on Turner. It's not quite the same if you're on ABC or ESPN.
All right, last thing. Stanley Cup,
Yes.
Florida and Edmonton, a rematch of a year ago. We've not seen in 32 years a Canadian team win the Stanley Cup.
Point blank, is this the year?
I think
Does
it
Edmonton
is.
get it?
I'm going to say it is.
Wow. Because they were right there. Got to a Game 7 a year ago against Florida.
After they fell behind 3-0.
If I had said to young Woloshin growing up in Chicago, watching the NHL, and watching the Montreal Canadiens in particular dominate, and then later, watch the Edmonton Oilers in the early 80s pick up the baton and dominate, if I had said to you, you would go 32 years without the country of Canada winning a Stanley Cup, nobody would ever believe that.
No way. No.
And
when I was watching it, remember, there were only 6 teams in the league when I was
going
to the Chicago Stadium to watch
You were
the
watching it on a
Blackhawks.
black and white TV, and you had to walk 10 miles uphill in the snow to school. But
100%.
if I had also said to you 6 consecutive years a team from Florida is in the Stanley Cup, 3 for my Tampa Bay Lightning, 2020 through 2022, and now this is 3 straight years for the Florida Panthers. Whose NHL is this in 2025, Wolo?
Well, that's
6 straight years with a Floridian team.
Part of the sad state of the game. But by the way, it's so funny that you said that black and white. This is the truth. The first time I ever saw color TV, our downstairs neighbors had the first one. The guy was a pharmacist. He had money. He bought a color TV, and the first program I ever saw in color was the Blackhawks playing hockey. So help me God.
There you go.
There you go.
Back in the day. We covered it all on this segment.
We got it. We always do. Thank you.
You be well. I'm glad you're safe from the vacay. Have a great week. Great to be with you.
Yeah, always good to talk with TJ Reeves, our man down in Tampa. We take a break. When we come back, Ted Butler on more golf. He'll even give a tip today. We'll figure out how to get ourselves into a good rhythm right off the bat. Ted Butler is next on Wallow and Friends.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Take your basketball skills to the next level at Shoot 360 Memphis. Shoot 360 is a revolutionary basketball training facility that combines cutting-edge technology with gamification and provides instant, objective feedback with hands-on, one-on-one expert coaching. And now, introducing Shoot 360 Cordova, a newly renovated 50,000 square foot facility with 2 NBA regulation-sized courts, 3 high school-sized courts, and 4 shooting bays with Shoot 360 technology. Memberships are now on a monthly basis. And yes, you can become a member at both locations. Whether you're an aspiring young talent, NBA player, or looking for a unique workout, all skill levels are welcome at Shoot 360 Memphis to learn proper shooting and passing techniques, improve fundamentals, and gain a competitive edge while having fun. Shoot 360 Memphis now in Cordova and Collierville. Call them today at 901-779-3176. That's 901-779-3176. The future of basketball training is here. Shoot 360 Memphis.
With Progressive, renters can save on protection for the things that make your place yours, even things that don't make sense to everyone.
People always wonder why I don't get rid of my guitar since I never play. But it's like, what if I actually end up taking lessons? Sure, I've had it for 8 years, but if I get rid of it, then what will my New Year's resolution be next January?
Exactly. So bundle your renters in auto and save with Progressive and protect the things that make sense to you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates and insurance not available in all states or situations. Covered subject to policy terms and conditions.
That's That's the whole point. It's a secret.
Why does Central Barbecue feel like they have to keep the ingredients of their dry rub a secret?
Because it's just that good. If people could find out the ingredients in Central Barbecue's dry rub, they could reverse engineer it and make their own Central Barbecue dry rub.
Reverse engineer? These aren't state secrets.
They may as well be. This is serious business. Central Barbecue already tells everybody that they slow smoke their meat for a full 24 hours over hickory and pecan, and that there's never any sauce in the pit. They're giving away too much information as it is.
They're not giving away secrets. It's advertising. They're boasting about those things.
You are so naive.
Rick's Powder Coating for a beautiful finish every time. Rick's Powder Coating specializes in automotive, ornamental, residential, and industrial coating. With two conveyor lines of the largest batch ovens in the Mid-South, Rick's can accommodate all of your powder coating needs. Locally owned and operated since 2002, Rick's Powder Coating will customize a beautiful finish just for you. Drop by or call to see how Rick's Powder Coating can bring color to your life. 901-367-2771 or rickspowdercoating.com.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
All we hear is Radio Gaga.
I can't help but chuckle when I hear those Central Barbecue ads with Dennis Phillippe and Big Zeke. They just make me laugh. I smile every time I hear them. We're going to head on over to Putt Putt's Summer Golf and Games and chat with our golf guru, Ted Butler, in a minute. He's brought to you by Southern Security. Whether you're a small business owner, maybe a single mom, could be you buying your very first home, the place to go, Southern Security. They will be your trusted financial partner. They've been doing it for over 75 years right here in the Mid-South. Southern Security's been serving everybody with the best rates, the best service, always the newest technology. Wait till you see the new building in Collierville. They've been voted the best credit union in the Mid-South for 6 straight years. They're working on number 7. To find out how you can become a member, you join the Southern Security family, because they are like that, by going to southernsecurity.org, or you can talk to a human being at 901-452-7900. Southern Security is a proud supporter of U of M Athletics and 901 Women. Southern Security, your home team credit union, federally insured by NCUA. Scotty Scheffler is on a roll, 16 wins in his first 4 years, and he's still working on it. 3 majors. He's become the guy that Ted Butler says Rory McIlroy was going to be this year. Good morning, Ted Butler.
I had to say that, didn't you? Just couldn't help it.
Well,
Rory had a bad tournament, and I do think he's got issues besides golf, in his personal life and things like that, moving back to England. But Scotty's a better player, no question. No question.
Is that what you think has happened to Rory? Do you think he got miffed because they busted him for an illegal driver? Which, by the way, they busted Scotty Scheffler same way. They both took away their drivers. That was at the PGA. We know what happened with Scotty. The thing with Rory is surprising, and it's even more surprising that he just dissed Jack Nicklaus by not even showing up at his tournament and calling him.
I can't believe that. I really cannot believe that. After Nicklaus helping him for the U.S. Open and the Masters and all that kind of stuff, I'm a little surprised by that.
Me too. What do you think it is with Rory? You say personal problems. I know his wife's not from England, but they're building a house in England. What do you think is the total issue here? And was he just fortunate to finally get that monkey off his back? And maybe his game is not up to his putting for sure, not up to snuff in today's game.
Well, against Scheffler, he's not. Against the rest of the world, he's still really good. He was fortunate to win the Masters, no question. But the marital issues and the moving back to England and snubbing Jack, I really don't know what's behind all that. It's the kind of stuff you just hear things and nibble gooses about, but I don't really know. But I do know Scheffler is awesome.
Well, let's just look at some numbers here. And I talked about this a little bit earlier with TJ Reeves. But if you look at under the age of 30, and what is he, 28? Under the age of 30, multiple majors, and I think it's at least 15 wins. Now he's got 16. 3 majors. The only guys that have done that at that age would be Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus. Are we seeing a guy, and I know we love talking in exclamatory ways, but I think these numbers bear that you make this discussion. Are we
Yeah, I
seeing
do
a
too.
guy who's ascending to that kind of status that we could talk about him as one of the greats?
Yes, I think if his body can hold up to that footwork on his driver, if he doesn't hurt himself, twist or break an ankle because he's been doing it for years, he hits the ball just like Jack Nicklaus. He hits it sky high and he hits it miles. He's a better chipper than Nicklaus was. Jack was a better putter. But their games are so similar in the course management, the calm demeanor on the golf course, not getting too wrapped up in the gallery. 3 out of 4 wins now, and the other one he was 4th.
Yeah.
And the shots he hits are so awesome from 200 yards to 240. He knocks the pin down. Sky high straight shots, little cut. It's really quite amazing.
All right, so you had guaranteed me that Rory was going to win the Grand
I'm a
Slam for the year.
I must have had a bad
Calendar
night.
Slam. Who do you think's going to win the U.S. Open?
Well, here again, now we're at Oakmont, right?
Yeah.
And it's high, long, real fast greens, very similar to Augusta and the Memorial. Those huge golf courses with deep, rough, fast greens. Scotty's going to have to be, I think, the prohibitive favorite for that.
And where do you put DeChambeau in this? Because remember, he won it last year when Rory folded, and you got to put Rory in. Is he going to have his mind right?
I don't know. I hope so. I don't. If DeChambeau wins, I'd be astonished. He's got a million excuses and changing equipment and blaming this and blaming that. And it was a miracle he won last time. That sand shot.
Well,
in 18,
it wasn't a miracle.
It
was a Rory choke. Let's be honest.
Well, he shouldn't have won that one.
No,
Oberg's come to mind. The long ball high hitters have a definite advantage at Oakmont.
We did have a U.S. Open at Erin Hills, and that's a golf course that I've played, which is really long and hard. And the young lady, Major Stark, was the winner of that, a Swedish lady. The first Swedes hits Annika Sorenstam to win a U.S. Open. And she said something that was very interesting. She said normally, because that's her second LPGA win, and she's only like 26. She's pretty young. But she said in the past, she relied on confidence, but her confidence had waned in the last year or so, and that she had a new technique, which I guess helped her concentrate. And I think I remember Jack Nicklaus doing this too. He would hover his club above the ground. In other words, it wouldn't rest. So there was already some tension release of some kind by holding the club behind the ball, but aloft. Do you prescribe to that at all? What is your theory about that? She claims that won her a U.S. Open.
Well, I like it. I mean, Jack Nicklaus always said that, especially with his driver. So why would you put the club on the ground when the ball's on a tee? So you hover it. You have to make a correction in your swing to hit the ball solid. But in my own, I've done that for years with my driver. Never quite thought about it with an iron, because you're trying to hit down on an iron. You want to take a divot with an iron, but the hovering the club like that, it softens your hands, it softens your forearms, it helps your takeaway tempo. It's an easier way to start it back instead of snatching it off the ground. I like it personally.
Yeah, well, so does the Swede, because now she's one. And Nelly Corda, who, by the way, dominated. Remember a year ago? She had all those straight wins, and when people were talking about Nancy Lopez in her, and she's a nice young lady, very attractive, and a great personality. So she, I think everybody wanted her to become a star. She has struggled in the U.S. Open, but she finished second last week, so maybe she starts to make a move. Every week, you usually give us a little bit of a tip after 53 years of teaching here in this market. You mentioned earlier how maybe if with a driver you held the ball aloft a little bit, it might help you get into your rhythm. That's something I find a lot of players will talk about, that they're too rushed or they can't find what their natural rhythm is. Some days when they got it, they play well. When they don't, they don't. So how do you start around by getting yourself in the proper rhythm?
Well, it varies for different people. If you're high strung, you're going to, like Landy Watkins or Nick Price, guys like that are quick moving all the time. You're be more brisk than, say, Fred Couples, who takes it back in slow motion. It's kind of partially due to your own the way you are yourself, but the first 18 inches of your backswing should be smooth and online, soft hands. No violence. It's a 3-to-1 ratio speed on downswing and backswing. The downswing is 3 times faster than the backswing on most really good players. So if you can gently, just kind of the first 2 feet, just kind of, as Payne Stewart said, coast it back. He said, coast it to the top, and then you turn the speed on the way down. And it's hard to do that, but it's a good thing to put into your practice and your pre-shot routine.
So the first 18 inches,
yes,
I like to think low and slow, because I have a very slow backswing. That's the only way I can, I think, actually get that thing square when it comes back down.
Low and slow is great.
Low and slow.
That's a Sam Sneadism.
Is there any kind of before you get to the tee box? Is there any kind of little training thing you can do pre-swings, whatever it might be, to get you to that position? Is there a thought?
Yeah, walk slowly to the tee. Kind of, you don't jump up and tee it up and jump up to the ball. Just go through a slow routine. Put the tee in, take a kind of a half-speed semi-practice swing, and then give it. I think the waggle is a big part of it. Take that little waggle before you go, and then just move right into the swing. If you walk up there and stand there and grip it real tight, and you're going to swing as hard as you can, it hardly ever works. It's just an overall smoothness to it.
All right, my friend, I appreciate it. Thank you much.
Okay, Dave.
We'll chat next time. That is our guy from Golf and Games on Summer, and 53 years. Can you imagine that, of helping people learn the game of golf over all these years? That is absolutely outstanding. Tomorrow, usual suspects for our Tuesday show. We'll talk with Tib Doolin on baseball and a bunch of other good things coming your way. That'll do it for us today. For Elijah Seegers, I'm Dave Woloshin. We'll say so long, but don't forget, right around the corner, here comes Johnny Radio. Have a great day, everybody.